Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about Total War Pharaoh. And one of the more tangible benefits it could potentially have on the Total War community. I emphasize the could aspect over here in this particular video because it is not guaranteed. It is going to depend on what the community decides to do with it and how many people are going to pick it up and play Pharaoh. The numbers currently for Total War Pharaoh are decent. They're roughly a quarter or a fifth of the numbers that we're currently seeing in Warhammer 3. But here's what I want to talk about. Modding, and specifically things that would potentially overhaul the game and present either different eras of history in this particular part of the world, or even further, take it even further than we have seen in Total War games for a very, very long time. One of the problems, one of the major downsides that's existed with Total War Warhammer is actually the lack of overhaul mods. It would be very possible to say do a Lord of the Rings mod in Warhammer 3, for instance, but Games Workshop does not allow us to do it. There are certainly maps, and now we have more tools available, or the modding community has more tools available than it ever did, because there is a tool available that does allow you to customize the campaign map. And so now you can take a Total War game, and certainly this is what Cass Robbie has done with the Old World mod. You can take the map of a Total War game and change it completely, expand it massively compared to what we have been given from Creative Assembly. Now, I don't know how difficult it would be to make this tool work with respect to Pharaoh compared to, say, a Warhammer 3, but I believe that tool was specifically designed for Attila, specifically the Lord of the Rings mod that's being worked on over there. So if it's working in Attila and it's working in Warhammer, and since Pharaoh is the same engine as Warhammer, then that is a possibility. So you could have significant possibilities over here with custom maps, expand the world even further than it already is over here in Pharaoh. But think of the world in Pharaoh. Think of the area that Pharaoh covers. You have everything from Greece, Thrace, all the way to Mesopotamia. Do you know what this looks like to me? This looks like a perfect setting to create a mod focused on Alexander the Great. Something that we've genuinely lacked in Total War for a long time. In fact, if I was talking with Creative Assembly right now, I would tell them, hey, you've already built an engine. It runs pretty great. You've added all of these areas, changed some name around, maybe changed some settlement locations and all that. Add the factions that existed during Alexander's time, and you're going to have that game. Or even further, you could go focusing on the Greek-Persian wars in general. So, you could have the Spartans, you could have Xerxes, Athens, or the wars between Athens and Sparta. I mean, I know there is a DLC that does that in Rome 2. It isn't particularly great for a number of reasons, partly the way combat works in Rome 2 compared to what it does work in Pharaoh. I'm going to say it out loud. I think Pharaoh has some of the best historical, quote-unquote, gameplay that we've seen in a Total War in a very, very long time. Certainly, I would consider it better than both Attila and Rome 2. But on top of that, this is another benefit that we do have with Pharaoh. We also have better performance, better gameplay all around, better systems in the campaign. Sure, these could be adapted even further, and there's a lot of things apparently modders can do, like settlement slots, or changing what structures are doing, because a lot of the structures can feel a bit lacking over here in Pharaoh, but those things can be changed relatively easily, believe it or not, and you can certainly make some more interesting choices in terms of buildings. And in terms of battle gameplay, let me just say it outright, cavalry and chariots in this game are freaking awesome. Like, genuinely, this is some of the best historical cavalry combat that I've seen in a Total War game in a long time. I mean, I guess you could say Three Kingdoms, but honestly, I wasn't too big of a fan of how that played out. I'm sure a lot of people weren't too big of fans of how that played out in a lot of ways. But that's just historical stuff that we can talk about with Total War. But you have good performance. You have campaign customization built into the game. You have animations. You also crucially have people of various ethnicities already, all the models over there, all the faces, skin colors, all that, already built in the game. You have a dynasty system already built in the game. You have a family line already built into the game. You have a court system already built into the game. You have so many things that are just built into the game that could be suited for so many periods throughout the course of history. It is quite incredible in a lot of ways, really. So those are some of the benefits that we could have with modding. But it goes even further. Consider the economy system, but then consider the ancient legacies. And maybe we could have a system, maybe it could be modded in. I don't know how difficult it would be, but maybe it could be possible to have multiple ancient legacies at the same time. But you have things like being able to create laws, create campaign objectives with Sargon the Great, or, build the dominance with Atreus, or the alliances with Perseus, and other things as well. There's so many great systems that this game has inherently built in that you could apply it to many periods of history. And if you can change the campaign map, well, I'm going to say, all right. If you can change the campaign map and encompass all the way to Italy and Carthage, I think that modders could genuinely create a better experience than what Rome 2 and Attila have to offer. The most genuine sense. I am not exaggerating on that at all whatsoever. But even further, and I'm not joking, even further than that, this is the Warhammer engine. And I'm not sure how accurate this is, but one of the things that I've heard is that apparently there's actually a lot of the animations that exist in Warhammer for, things like crocodiles, lizardmen, all that. They also exist in this game. So you can create single entities. You can add flying units. And I mean, hell, Troy, which this game is a follow-up to Troy, ignoring the fact that it's built on the Warhammer engine, this is a follow-up to Troy. Troy had single entities. It had flying units. It had all of those systems. So you can make some really great fantasy mods over here as well. I'm not someone at one point was thinking on building a Lord of the Rings mod for this game. It could work so fantastically well, especially if the campaign map can be changed. And that is the crucial element. But even if it can't be changed, there's so many possibilities, so many ways you could handle a campaign in this game that I would really hope that some people do decide to sink their teeth into it and really decide to make it work. Because this has been one of my disappointments with Warhammer. And actually, it's been one of my disappointments that we haven't been able to change the campaign map for so long, because that's one of the reasons we haven't gotten Lord of the Rings mod since really Medieval 2. I played a lot of Medieval 2, but primarily I played the Third Age mod for Medieval 2. So if some people were interested in doing that, it would be a fantastic experience in a lot of ways. There's, again, a lot of systems: diplomacy, court, gods, ancient legacies, the power of the crown, dynasty, families, marriages. So many great systems that this game has. That's actually kind of sad that so many systems that were developed for Troy and even Pharaoh were wasted on games that up until the release of Dynasties were just really wasted on games that a lot of people didn't care about, because, again, there's a lot of great systems. And then you also can consider some of the unique systems that existed in campaigns in Troy, which could probably be ported in Pharaoh, because, again, it's a follow-up. It's built on the same mechanics. It's built on that game engine. It literally has some of the same areas right now with this Dynasties and characters, obviously. Not quite fully there. So that is something worth considering, and I think that is the real potential that this game has. I will do a review once I get to about 100 hours played, about halfway there at this stage, but the more I think of it, the more appealing Pharaoh really is to me at this stage, considering all the things they've done. Combat changes, campaign changes, lots of possibilities that are available that weren't there before. Costin signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.